morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone. And I am very excited to speak with my friend, Reverend Angela LaRue, but she is running a little late. So I thought we'd come on so we didn't lose the feed and go ahead and start the conversation so that you all could learn a little bit about her. I met Angie 3 or 4 years ago, and when I met her, she had already created does makes organite. This is a organite generator ozone organite generator that I have right by my modem on my computer. And she also makes these smaller pieces that also have different frequencies in them, and you can kind of put them in your pocket. That's one of the things that she was doing. Then she has a bed that is one of the most powerful devices I've ever experienced, that's filled with crystals and other wire and wool. And hopefully when she comes on, you might be able to see it in the background of her. And on top of that bed, she does these healings that are called crystal array healings. And the crystal array healings are where crystals, and I don't have any right here, but let's say this one is, let's say this was a clear crystal. Her crystals connect one by one in a pattern around you on this incredible bed that is filled with crystals. And then she does healings with them. It is the most remarkable thing I've ever seen. She also, at that time when I first met her, I will have to find out everything she's doing now because she's always evolving. She worked on a friend of mine who had a bad hip, and he had been advised to get hip replacement. And with, I think, 3 sessions with Angie, she healed his hip. So I'm very excited to have her come on and tell you what's happening now. The other thing I'd like to do is invite you all, if you're on Facebook, to join my group, which is called Mindful Marketing Mastermind. And I'd love to have, I'll put it in the comments, I'd love to have more people in there. And I'm going to start training on Thursdays in there so that we'll have classes, live classes for you to help you with your online marketing. We're in an amazing time, and I want everyone that watches this now and later to realize how important each one of you is in this big change. You're much more powerful than you know. And once you get to meet Angie and learn about what she does in her mystery school, you may want to experience how you could experience more of that, as well as the possibilities to get out of the box, out of your conditioning, out of the programs, which I call them programs, that we have been playing in, and do what some would call alchemy. It's really not alchemy, it's what we're here to do, but we're much more connected to higher consciousness than we know. And oh boy, Angie's here, so we can start talking about that. But I hope that you'll join me in the Mindful Marketing Mastermind group. and on Facebook. And here we go. Here's Angie. Hi, dear.
Good morning.
Good morning. So the I showed this
Oh,
and
wonderful.
this
Yay.
and I explained a little bit about your crystal arrays, but Angie, I think we've known each other 4 years or more. I don't know, maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It could be 5. Time is becoming more irrelevant all the time.
Well, we're so lucky to know each other because we really enjoy each other's energy, and we both are having fun with expanding and seeing what we can do with it. But Ange, why don't we start? I did mention something about your crystal bed, your bio bed. Do you want to? Do you want to just tilt a
Do
little
you, do you want me? Do you want me to show it? Okay.
the Vanna White thing?
All right. Give me a moment. I'll go light it up.
Okay. Well, so what you'll see is this bed is a custom made bed. There's only one of a kind. Here we go. And there's the Vanna White pose. And this is filled with crystals. Do you want to explain what's in there? Ta-da!
All right. So there's multiple layers of crystals going down the bed, and each layer is coordinated with what type of energy that we need. So whether we need, energy for our head, our thinking, clarity of thought, evolution of consciousness, or whether we need, heart, or whether we need, intestinal organs, legs, muscles, blood, all the way down. And then the overriding frequency over all of that comes from selenite, which is all the purple you saw. And the lights make it look purple. It's actually white. And, that has to do with higher states of consciousness. And our body heals better. Our mind gets clearer and less foggy. Our thinking becomes more rapid. And of course, we evolve spiritually faster as well. So the entire bed is built to support the evolution of consciousness, the health of the body, and the clarity of the mind. So,
Well, I'm not sure what all you're doing now. That the bed itself creates a field. It is like a conscious being. It is powerful. You can go if you're in Boulder, Colorado. You can go and lie on it, or you can do remote, where Angie uses it as the field to create healing. But I did explain a little bit about crystal arrays, but you're doing codium healings. You're doing all sorts of stuff now. So love for you to share what's
yeah.
new in your world.
So I ended up kind of connected in with the Pleiades, and with that came a number of gifts. The Codoms for one, and I don't know how many I have now at this point, but a great many. They're very specific energy, so it's a pinpoint energy. A Codom does like one thing essentially. It's not a broad spectrum kind of thing. So it really pinpoints. Like if you have arthritis, there's a Codom for arthritis. If you're trying to connect with your angels and guides, there's a Codom specifically for that. If you need evolutions in your business, there's Codoms for that. If you're writing music, there's Codoms for that. So that's one thing, is the Codoms, and I love those energies. They're fast. They're so fast. And another thing is they gave me kind of a medical device that's embedded in my hand, and it makes a holographic projection that I can turn and study. I can zoom in and look at, inside of a kidney, or I can, zoom out and look at the muscular structure or whatever. And then I can make changes on the etheric to correct things, including DNA imprints or blueprints. And then I return that to the person, and that change which has been made on the etheric begins to apply into the third dimension, into the physical, what we consider the physical dimensions. So that's pretty fun.
Yes, I've been fortunate enough to sit next to Angie when we did a group version of this and watch. Because I could actually see she took the group into this one physical human form and then released whatever we all needed and then gave it all back to us. And it was palpable. And what was weird is I could see. That
Yeah.
was even weirder. But
It was actually really fun because Kathy was actually there when the Palladians gave it to me, and it's a kind of an egg. It's shaped something like this,
yeah,
and they actually threw it across the room and said "catch," and it flew right by her, and
yeah.
she actually saw it, and then it embedded in my hand and hurt for like 3 weeks. But
well,
then,
there's been so many things like that that we all it definitely was meant for you, and it's we're so it's such a wonderful gift that you have that you share with so much love to help people heal. So are you doing more of that than doing the psychic surgeries then, or?
it still remains a kind of an equal mix between psychic abilities, readings and what remote viewing and stuff like that. The psychic surgeries, healings, crystal arrays, which are actually something that I do on that bed. That's just the base that holds these big, huge crystal arrays, which are phenomenal. And I just love those so much. And manufacturing and making the orgone generators and the solfeggio frequency eggs. So it's just, and then also the carbon 60 oils. I forgot about that. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I'm also the founder of the Inner Passage Mystery School. So I spend
Yeah.
a lot of time teaching as well. And it still remains a pretty even division between all those things. I don't know. I guess I've never been good at only doing one thing. I seem to have I don't know, just my human experience at this time. I do multiple things all the time.
I'd love for you to brag a little bit about your psychic abilities, and if you are comfortable talking about that with the study that is being done.
Oh, yeah. They've actually completed that study
Oh,
or folded it into other studies. And the gentleman at the university that was working with me has returned to India right now. So,
oh,
but yeah, so one thing that I enjoy doing is traveling out of body and just kind of exploring spaceships and other planets and whatever I run into. I've had some really great adventures and a few misadventures as well. Um, and the university had done kind of an open call um, for anybody who thought they might have some kind of ability to change the numbers on a random number generator. So the random number generator kind of made this line on the datum line, kind of up and down, zigzaggy a little bit. And you had to either influence it to go up or influence it to go down. So you're either going to try to get it to produce more zeros and ones to go down or more eights and nines to go up. And they had a protocol that you were to follow for the first 10 experiments. And then the next set of 10, you could kind of invent your own. And so I followed their protocols for the first 10. And I was distinctly able to influence the numbers up towards, the 6, 7s, and 8s. So that was fun. And then it came time to do my own experiments. And I was like, ooh, yay. And I spiked it. I just immediately took it clear off the graph line. And I tried a number of different experiments. And one of them I actually OBE'd. I traveled out of body into the computer and danced on the motherboard with with the numbers, and just was in a state of love. And I told them our expression of love is nines. Just shot it off of the curve. And so when they consolidated all the data, and at one point I used the Antonian stone on it too, and that really flipped them out because instantly from way up here returned the graph to a very straight line. And I was like, oh no, I healed it. I returned it to its normal state of being.
Oh no, you made it coherent.
Yeah.
That is
So,
hysterical.
but they got quite excited about the results. And so they designed a set of experiments around me. And so then it became, for I don't remember how many months we worked on this, but it was like twice a week. And my job was to jump to the future. So like on a Wednesday, I had to jump to Friday night to see what the Florida Powerball was going to be and report those numbers back. I learned so much. I had so many misadventures in that. Oh my goodness, I could talk for an hour about what was learned in that experiment of jumping briefly, jumping into the future. But I ran into in the Florida lottery room because I would go there to watch the Powerballs come out the tube and then report the numbers. I ran into other people there.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I ran into other out-of-body travelers, and there was this one big black woman, and she had this huge presence. And we would end up in these wrestling matches in front of the Powerball, trying to see the numbers. And I was like, okay, this is not working. And also there's so many energies of everybody's intentions, because everybody's watching their television, and they're going, give me a 19, give me a 19. And so it was just a big, murky, messy energy thing. I was like, we're not going to make, but I could get like 4 out of the 6 numbers, even at that, but which doesn't mean that much if it's not the right ones and you don't get the Powerball. And so we moved the computer to the lab here at CU, and he would draw the number. So in other words, when the Powerball came, he had these sand trays full of sand, and then he would draw the number in the sand, and he would fill it with liquid nitrogen, because we need activity. The activity shows better. And he would do that after he saw the Powerball numbers. But what I would do is at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, before the 9 o'clock numbers came out, is I would jump 4 hours or whatever that is, 6-7 hours in advance to when he's already poured the liquid nitrogen in the trays. And I would report the numbers back. And then what we would do to make sure that I had the right timeline is it would always be some kind of symbol that he would draw.
Okay.
And I had to report the symbol back first. And that let us know if I was on the right day in the timeline or not. Because what was happening, what we'd learned from all the Florida jumps is I could return with the Powerballs, but instead of it being the Powerballs for April 17th, it was the Powerballs for August 17th.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And so locking in the correct timeline was really a challenge. And so we did this kind of remote viewing thing where I would, go to the lab, see the boxes, look for my symbol, report the symbol, and then I would get feedback from him if I was in the right timeline. And then I would read the numbers. And this thing happened where there was like this rift that was in the lab, and the rift kept opening up and sucking me in it. And so I'd have to fight my way back out of the rift, read another number, report that, and I get sucked into the rift again. Wow. I have to fight my way out of the rift, read another number, and I get sucked back into the rift again. And after about the second time of this happening, I was like, what is happening in your lab? This is the lab at the NAU campus. And I was like, what is going on there? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, there's a tear in the space-time fabric, and it keeps sucking me in, and I'm using up all my psychic energy, trying to get back out again to read another number. And this is going to burn me out, and I'm not going to be able to do this for very long at all. Your lab is not stable. What is happening? And he's like, well, I don't understand what you mean. I was like, what kind of machinery do you have in there? What specifically is on this wall at this height?
Oh my gosh.
Like, well, there's a broken quantum computer there. It doesn't even work, and it's in pieces. And it's like, guess what? It's tearing the space-time fabric. You've got to get that out of there.
Wow.
So I learned a lot about quantum computers. Even broken ones cause rifts in the time-space fabric.
Wow.
And so they cleaned the lab up. They got that out of there. And the rift persisted, and we didn't know how long until the space-time fabric would heal itself. So we moved the lab yet again to another place, and then that place was a lot safer. I would jump to, and it was guarded because that particular gentleman, Kavan, he's from an Indian tradition from India. And so there was these really interesting guides and guards that guarded his bedroom, which is where we moved the lab to, was his bedroom, to get it into a high frequency space. And so whenever I would jump and I would go there, I'd be like going, hi, it's just I'm invited. It's okay.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, but we got some really good results out of that. I won the Powerball for them like 3 or 4 times, and
did you get to share in the proceeds?
No, it was just the Powerball. So you can get all the rest of the numbers right, the rest of the 5 numbers right, but if you don't get the Powerball, it doesn't add up to anything. But if you get the Powerball, you get like, I don't know, $12 or $20 or something like that. But you need to get, I think, the Powerball plus 4 other numbers. And I was hitting the Powerball plus like 3 numbers quite regularly, or I'd get 4 numbers, but not the Powerball. But it was way, way above statistical probability. And so, it proved, quite firmly that there is something to this, that humans can move through space-time and return with whatever, an 85% correct.
I want to go back and buy Apple stock.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you can take your money with you, because you're not in pure physical form, right?
Not at all. I'm in etheric form.
Yeah.
So, and it's really hard when you're just a little pile of glowing mist. Yeah.
But your eyes apparently aren't. Your eyes are working beautifully.
Well, this one. Yeah, we don't use these. We use this one.
Well, at one point you were talking about that he had done some statistical, he had given you a percentage of accuracy for your work. Did he give that to you? Could you share that?
I don't remember anymore what it was, but it was quite high, and but I really feel like the real gold mine out of that was the things that I learned, especially because we were doing like a scientific setting, right, where we could really reproduce things. And just all the craziness, like the quantum computer, and like, all the energies, in Florida in the lottery room, and all the interference. And, and I was doing things like using street cameras to triangulate the time space, right? I mean, like, it really pushed my brain, just trying to narrow the timeline to land on the right time and space and stuff. It was phenomenal. I felt like I learned so much.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I was having to come up with really clever scenarios to really secure the scene.
Wonderful. Well, so you're not doing that, but you must be teaching some of that in your mystery school now.
Yes.
What is the name of your mystery school?
It's the Inner Passage Mystery School, and that can be found on my website online, which is Crystalarrays.com. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Yeah. So, and that's taught in person and also online. About half of my students Zoom in to class. And we're actually working on rose readings right now, which is a form of divination in which you can learn a tremendous amount of information about a person, a place, or a thing. So, and our last class, we did the Hadron Collider. And I know that was quite exciting to see what the students came up with. They had no idea, of course, what it was. They were just given a target number, and then they do a rose reading on that target number, and it was quite exciting. Yeah, they actually managed to describe it quite sufficiently,
What
so without having any idea what it was.
what is your emphasis in your mystery school? Are these specific teachings from Europe or from some timeline, or do they have some
It is
theme?
specifically the evolution of consciousness,
Okay.
and things are borrowed. Every religion in the world has made a great discovery or two. And that's like this beautiful little egg that's surrounded by a nest of dogma and tradition.
Hmm.
And ours is the esoterical path. And so we're really going, for those nuggets, those little eggs, those little treasures of beauty. And I'm not trying to make a new dogma or anything else. So it really is the evolution of consciousness. It's being all that you can be. So with all the super heightened senses, some of my students are working on super high levels, and the things that they do just amaze even me. Um, but it's also, moving more and more towards being in a constant state of love and compassion, and shining a very high vibration out there to all who cross your path, and living in a place of peace within, without resistance. And so it's all about, you know, getting into self sovereignty,
Hmm.
and that landing in a very high vibrational state. So that's the whole focus. And you can come in from any religious tradition, and the esoterical end of any religious tradition is going to be where the mystics sit. And that's what I teach, is the mystic traditions.
Right, right. It's where you touch who you really are, and the yeah, but the navigation of that space, a lot of times you really need a guide. And that's why I think people love your school and are very, very engaged in it once they discover you, because it's not really hierarchy. It's a community.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's fellow tribes. And, um, we really do end up living kind of in our own world, which is kind of floating above this world, and sometimes we dip down into this world and we're like, ew.
Not much. But anyway.
But we, part of, any good mystical tradition, you're going to have the skills to operate you. So you're in this world, but not of this world. And so, we don't want people floating out and now they can't, pay their rent and pay their taxes, and they have no idea what day or time or anything else it is. So it's about being grounded in this world, but stretching into, higher frequency states, higher vibrational states, and being able to hold it all, right?
Right.
Really being all that you can be.
Well, I think the perspective of oneness is difficult to experience in 3D. And
Oh,
the viewpoint of oneness, where you have compassion and love and see the divinity in every single being, in every um, animal, every tree, in it all, comes from, a lot of times for me, it comes from this higher knowing and seeing it and actually feeling it. So what I'm always just so complimentary of your capacity of explaining things, because a lot of times I feel a lot of people that have a higher worldview cannot express it, but you can, and you can take people by the hand bit by bit, because this is pure empowerment. This is really who we are when the paradigm, the boxes that we put ourselves in as this weird game.
Right.
When we climb out of the boxes and go, uh-oh, what do I do now? Or when you go real high and you feel like you're defragging and you have an experience.
Yeah. And you got to know how to pull yourself back together. And I've had to do some soul fragment recoveries on a few people where we were traveling out of body and we met a being, that was vibrating in like the 12th dimension. And boy, it just sends all your little atoms, like you just kind of explode. And you have to be refragmented. So like imagine, the teleporters on Star Trek, right? That beam of energy. Well, imagine somebody putting a big blower on it and just blowing all those fragments out there, right? And I had that happen to me. And then I had to recover myself enough to recover the person that I was traveling out of body with. So, but once you start kind of, learning how to do all that and understanding the quantum nature of the universe, it becomes easier to recover from that. I almost killed myself one time teleporting, right?
Yeah.
I had teleported enough of me to another location that I no longer had a functional brain.
Not
And
here.
yeah, it was actually in Damanhur, Italy.
Oh.
And I teleported from up in the stair stadium area down to the statue of Ra or whoever that is. So it's like the length of a football field. And yeah, I made myself completely dysfunctional. And I just knew something had gone really wrong, but I couldn't sort out what it was. And fortunately, my higher self kind of kept telling the body mind unit, go collect yourself, go collect yourself. So, but I mean, I had to have help walking. I couldn't navigate anymore. It was like I'd had a complete lobotomy because I teleported enough of myself to another place.
Wow. How long did that last?
Well, I'm going to say that whole event was close to 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I had people with me who nobody had understood what had happened and what I had done because I hadn't told anybody what I was going to do. I don't know. Probably not.
But they probably thought, oh, she had a reaction to the food or something.
Well, I just seemed to be suddenly brainless in a limp body that didn't work, and I I didn't know who I was or where I was or what I was, and the ceremony that was being held, it was like a full moon ceremony, ended, and my partner was like, "Come on, Angie, we need to go," and I had no idea what "Come on, Angie, we need to go" meant.
Wow.
There was just it was like.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That makes sense that you
Yeah,
did.
and so he ended up having to help me stand up, and he had to put his arm around me and navigate me. And so we navigated out of the area, and then I kind of couldn't even walk anymore or anything. It was like 100% effort to figure out how to operate my leg, right? And he set me down on a bench, and I just kept holding my hand. And I was like, I just need to collect myself. I just need to collect myself. And I didn't even know what that meant. It was just a mantra that kept coming out of my mouth. And then at some point, something fired in my brain. And I realized that that meant go collect myself from where I had teleported a large percentage of myself to. And so I kept pointing, and he now helped, almost carried me down there.
Oh, wow.
And then I could feel myself. I could feel where I was at. And at some point, the ceremony had been interrupted by something, and I'd had to start the teleport over again. And so there was another section of me 2 feet away. So I like squatted down. And I was just like scooping myself back in. And with every scoop of this etheric mass of me, my brain started clearing up. And then And I was like, okay, am I 100%? No, I'm not. I'm still missing some. And that was when I remembered the interrupted teleport. And so I went around and I, found the other chunk of me and scooped it back in. And then I was good to go again. But that was scary. And I've been trying to train up, a group of priests or priestesses to spot me because I would like to try to teleport again. But there's some major safety features that are going to have to be around that because you basically can give yourself a complete lobotomy and, end up,
Right.
In a psych ward or a hospital on life support and nobody will know what happened. And
Right.
you can't tell anybody what happened to get yourself back. And, will the parts of yourself kind of float back together over time? I have no idea.
Well, if again, I'm sure it's all part of a lesson. So if you chose to have that lesson of being defragged and then retrieved, but
Yeah.
I think you teach people because of that experience,
Mhm.
you're very um, protective of your students to make sure they know how to do it correctly.
Right. Yeah. And I can recover a number. I can recover myself and then a whole bunch of other people too,
Okay.
and teach that now. And I've had some really wonderful, adventures which have refined, how to do that.
Well, before you came on, I explained about all your healing capacity, and this is a show for resources for conscious business owners that have they're servant leaders. Most of them, they're very aware of their customers as well as their internal customers, their employees, and the products and services that they offer. And I wanted them to know if they need healing services, they need psychic services, they're ready to learn how to play with all that is at a much higher level, that they can work with you. Um, I think that there aren't very many people like you, Ange, out in the world. I'm so blessed to know you.
I'm doing something right then.
Yeah.
I'm really living my soul essence then.
Right. Well, the thing is that this is a way to release fear and get into your potency. The fear virus is what we're all experiencing right now, and some of us are. I mean, I know that a lot of people are blooming right now. They're. It's like this lockdown shutdown gave them enough time to really go in. How do you see this time?
Yeah, so some really interesting things. There was you know me, Kathy. Here we go.
Okay.
Um, there was a really interesting government project called the Looking Glass, where they were able to look into the future.
Right.
Okay, and this project went on for quite a while, and it became very apparent around 2012 that a pivotal event happened in humanity. And no matter how many scenarios they ran to try to prevent this, all roads led to this event in 2012. And it was completely unavoidable. And they spent years and years, and they brought in all kinds of technicians and all kinds of everybody to try to change the outcome
Right.
of what was going to happen to humanity. And it didn't matter. This event happened no matter what.
Right.
Guess what the event was?
Awakening.
Yeah,
Yep.
the mass awakening of consciousness.
Right.
And we just left the Kaliunda a couple weeks ago, and we're literally, based on where our planet is inside the Milky Way compared to the rest of the galaxy, it's like a big cosmological calendar. And we have moved into beginning 2012, we moved into alignment with energies coming from the center of our galactic core, which is causing the evolution of consciousness
Right.
in everything in our universe, and everything in our little spiral arm of the galaxy. So all the planets, all the life on those planets, all the beings, the sentient beings on all of it. We're evolving. It's unavoidable, and it can't be stopped. And that's hastening. And literally everything they're doing, like the lockdown and all that, all these scenarios they're playing out, it's just hastening it. It's unstoppable, right?
Right.
We're going to evolve, period. And
Right.
it's the natural order, right? This isn't, oh, I'm going to take, the next 3 years of my life off and go live in an ashram and evolve my consciousness. You're going to evolve. And the less resistance you have to that, the quicker it happens and the more gracefully it can happen. Not that the evolution of consciousness is in any way graceful. It's not.
No.
It's it can be very messy. And the faster and more spontaneous that awakening is, often the messier it is. And I've been called in a number of times, to help people who it got super messy.
Well, I think, we're the age of Aquarius is going from this hologram that is high contrast, high polarity, high out of balance male energy, to this this 0 point and peace. And so there has to be all these changes in all the social structure, government structure, every aspect, education, every aspect of our lives that I'm excited about. But there is a little bit of the fear of the unknown, or the fear of change, that you feel when you go, well, I don't know if that place is still open, because I don't know if it made it, or I don't know, all of the things that you might have had in your little paradigm 2 years ago as available resources or people. I don't even know if a lot of the people that I used to play with are still alive, really.
Right. Yeah.
And
Well, and there's plenty of souls that are deciding, I don't think I know. I'll check back in after we're done, with this transition, because, being here on the front line. So, we're moving out of the age of power, which, we're seeing what that has done to the world. And it's just this,
mess.
Yeah, it's really been a big, stupid mess. And we're moving into the age of ethics. Okay, so think about where our government is at right now, and the choices that have been made, and the things they've been doing, and the endless wars, and the corruption, and the graft, and the, technocrats, and think of all that. And we're moving into the age of ethics and clarity, right? That's a huge transition. And I don't think we've ever even been as far away from that as we are right now.
Right.
Well, not in this epoch.
Right.
That way.
Well, let's put it
Not in this
way.
iteration of humanity.
Not this many people. See, the thing is there's so many souls, so many aliens. So there are so many beings here that are watchers and participators, and there's beings at every level, which I'd love to. Hopefully, we have time to talk about Bigfoot. Um, there's so many opportunities to engage at a progressive, hopeful, loving way. And that's what I'm hoping people will get from this conversation, is that they're really, the fear is a gift to push through.
Yeah, we're really getting to explore in depth the experience of fear. So basically, for the humans, everything kind of boils down to two emotional states, or two states of being: a state of fear or a state of love. And everything else is just an iteration of that. Okay, so it's either fear or love. So right now we're really getting to explore fear and really see what that is, what that does to us, how everything. Because we don't necessarily understand that love is the better way to go until we understand the opposite really well, right? And when we are so clear inside of our soul that fear is not the way we want to go, we create the world that we really want. And we do that individually, we do that collectively, we do that regionally, we do that nationally, and we do that as a whole world. So, but right now we're really exploring the brown stuff that hits the fan.
Well, I think what's interesting is that there's no judgment. For most of the people that I work with and that are out in service like you are for humanity, there's really no judgment. There's no ego. I think back even 20 years ago, there was gurus and ego, and there was so much of that, oh, well, they can do it. I'll just pray to them. It's that same paradigm as religion. Pray to them. Whereas now this period, this epoch allows us to thank you, allows us to be our own, create our own hologram that includes the I am, and then find others to create the hologram, a universal hologram.
Yeah. Well, we're all just God exploring, right? I'm just God having an Angie experience, and you're just God having a Kathy experience. We are, there is only one, there is only God dreaming a billion dreams, right? The dream of the tree, the dream of the crystal, the dream of, your pet, right? But we are all truly one. And so what happens is when we recognize and that oneness, that source creator created all of this from a state of love. So fear is a possibility and a potential. I mean, this is how we measure things, right? We don't even know, as a being where we are until we understand the yardstick, both ends of the yardstick, right? So exploring fear it's just exploring the terrain so that we can figure out where we want to be on that terrain. And there's no judgment on that. I mean, that too is just information feeding back into the oneness, into God.
How do you keep your high vibe though if you are around? I mean, it's almost like it feels depleting to be in a lower energy vibe. How do you?
Well, that's where we're really getting to polish our skills, right, Kathy? I mean, just 3 years ago, it was super easy to be, on that high flying disc all the time. And now we actually have to work for it, right? So we're meditating more. We're going to conscious events more and being around our own tribe more. I do my own crystal arrays on myself, right? Like those crystalline transmissions that we recorded, there's 12 of them. I do them on myself. And there's been days when things were so wonky in the collective and we were, the Schumann frequency was spiking to like 78 and comets are flying by and you wake up just like in a drugged haze and you can't pull yourself together. I've done as many as 3 crystal arrays on myself in a single day.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah. So it's an effort now. Instead of having these, wonderful tools that we, play with to increase our frequency and clean our field and all of that, now it's just like, taking a bath and washing your hair and brushing your teeth, and you got to do it, right? If you don't do it, you're going to be, unpleasant.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, it's also that because you're sensitive, you're sensing more than your field. And I do believe that everyone's going to become an empath. I think that's part of the evolution of our species.
Well, and it's not even becoming. You guys are already that.
Okay.
You are already that. And it's just tuning into it. And it's just healing yourself enough that you feel safe to open up again. Okay. But when we open up, all those skills are there. But we live in a world where we shut ourselves down so much. And, electronics are such a great way to shield up, check out, and they've become so addictive that a lot of people are just heavily shielded up and they don't feel safe to open up. But when you open up, you discover what you are. And I don't have any skills that anybody else in the world doesn't have.
Right.
I am literally the same as everybody else.
Right.
The difference is, as I've learned how to push through fear, anxiety, concern, and live courageously with grace and ease. And I don't take myself too seriously. We're all going to die. Nobody gets out of this alive. And we're all going to reincarnate and come back and play again. Right? And
And
so,
if we want to come to Earth School or not, that's the thing, is who knows what all of this is about. But I guess I wanted to make sure that people realize that you are a resource if they are going through difficulty, to be able to either get a psychic reading, or if their physical body, if they're exhausted with all of the keeping everybody else buoyant in their environment, and somebody needs to give them a little boost. That I want to highly recommend that Angie's work is just, it's divine. It's divine. So we have a little bit of time, and I want to talk about, well, you asked about the hike. You asked me to mention the hike. Is
oh,
it about Bigfoot, or is that
um,
something?
no, well, I mean, that does play a minor part in the story. I guess it's been a couple weeks ago now, but a hiker from Durango disappeared in the mountains near Crestone, and those really big 14,000 footer mountains. And he had contacted family members and said he'd made it to the summit, and he started back down, and they never heard from him. And he'd been missing for a couple days when I was contacted by family, I think on the East Coast. And so I'm on the phone with them, and I dropped into psychic space. I was like, well, let me see if I can see him. And I remote viewed him. He was near the top of the mountain. He had a broken leg. It looked like he had fallen off of a very steep rocky ridge. And he was laying at the base of the ridge, leaning against a very large boulder. And it was in a basin, well above tree line. There was no trees there. There was just some little scrubby things on lichen and stuff growing on rocks, maybe some kind of little viney, alpine, but very little. It was almost all just rocks.
Yeah.
There was a small alpine lake that was visible somewhere in the basin. Yeah, and he had a broken leg, and he was leaning against the rock. And so I described the setting so they could move that to, the searchers who were sending up helicopters and hikers. And it was a big search for him, trying to find him. They basically used up all their resources and had to get, approval to spend more money to try and find him. So they moved that description to them the next day. Some of the search and rescue guys, took falls and were hurt, and it was a very dangerous area with a lot of sliding rock.
Oh.
Well, anyway, so that was at about 11 o'clock at night that the family contacted me, and then some other things happened. I got some other phone calls and other texts I had to deal with after that. So that was remote viewing that I did. When I got that stuff done, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and this gentleman, his name was Vaughn, was very, very cold. He was when I went to remote view him, I empathically, connected with him, and his nose and his ears and his fingers and his toes hurt. They were burning. They hurt so much they were burning, and so it was my intention at 1 to travel out of body and get some friends of mine, the Sasquatch, who are quantum masters, and take them to him, because they can do things. And I thought maybe they could warm him. And I connected with Gaia to try to get some warmth going to him. And I was bringing my Sasquatch to him. And when we got back to him, he had fallen over. He was no longer leaning against the rock. He had fallen over, and he was sprawled, with an arm, and I don't know. it wasn't natural. It wasn't like he was sleeping. I think he had passed between
Oh,
11 p.m. when the family contacted me and 1 o'clock in the morning when I returned. He had already passed.
did they find
So
did they find him?
they did. They found him about 3 days later.
Oh,
And yeah, about 3 days later, they found him. And last night, the family sent me photographs of the area that he was found in, and it fit my description exactly. Yeah,
wow.
it was real, as a remote viewer, wonderful feedback. And that rock that he was under um, was large enough, and it was like, it's like a tough shed size, but it was large enough that his body was only visible from one particular place on one particular ridge. And a friend of his had binoculars and was able to be in line with the body and look through the binoculars and was the one who found him.
Wow.
So, but they'd been all through that area and missed him a number of times because that big rock hid his body.
Oh my gosh. And he probably was there for protection from the elements, but
Yeah,
wow.
and he couldn't. He his leg was quite broken. He couldn't, you know.
Wow. 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 So what did the Szechuans say though? Did they offer to help?
Yes, a couple of them came with me, but when we got there, he had already passed, and so
Oh,
they faded away. And yeah,
well, that would have been cool story if they would have come to the rescue too, and you had multi.
yeah. Well, I was desperate. We needed to warm him. I knew he was barely alive. He'd already been out in the elements 2 or 3 days at
Oh
that
my
point.
God.
And it had also snowed up there. I could see snow, a dusting of snow, like an inch. Not on everything, like some of the rocks that had melted off of already, but there was definitely snow, and it was, well above tree line. And I was I'm not positive he was alive at that point
Oh,
because there was no movement when I saw him. Well, no, I think he was because I felt the cold of his ears and his nose. So I think he must have been. I'm going to guess he was still alive, but he passed just within an hour or so after.
wow. 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 Well, that at least you created closure for the family.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm so glad that the body was found because for families you get a lot more closure with that.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, how we have 3 more minutes or so. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share? I know I want to make sure everybody knows how to reach you, and I can't recommend her work enough. As I said originally before Angie got on, her work is impeccable. The psychic surgery works and stays, and you just have a multitude of skills and offerings.
I just get out of the way. God has them all.
Well, you hold the space. So what I'm hoping is that the people that are watching this, if you are out of balance, whether it's your body, mind, or spirit, that you consider contacting Angie to get some assistance to get back into alignment.
Or just to, open up and grow. A lot of times having somebody believe us in us and having somebody give us the feedback of, you may have experienced this, but this is what I saw, helps us to develop the confidence to open up and allow ourselves, to be all that we can be.
That's right. So the
And
best,
you're all masters. You're all masters.
yes. The best way to reach you is your website. And do you want to tell everybody about that?
So, yeah, there's a lot of things available, all the organ generators and whatnot. There's also a contact page, though. And I think my phone number is even on that contact page. It may be. But you can also see stuff for the mystery school. You can see things about the carbon 60. You can, yeah, there's a lot. Just take your time and enjoy the website. There's a lot there. And if you have some questions and you don't, you just want to cut straight to the chase, just contact me through the website.
Perfect, perfect. And it's crystalarrays.com. And the way you navigate it is there's circles on the front, and you just pick
Yeah.
the circle.
Oh, and there's a free gift. I
Oh,
forgot. Yeah,
oh,
so there's a shortened version of a crystal array. I think the one that's being premiered right now is the Tau or the Tao array. So
oh,
get that and play with that. It's not a real strong one, but it's just really nice. I don't know. It's kind of like going in for a tune-up.
well, when Angie and I got to record 12 of those crystal arrays, and we were looped.
Yeah, for weeks.
It
For
was
weeks.
fantastic. I still listen to them. I love them.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely wonderful. But anyway, well, thank you so much. I want to make sure everyone again connects with Angie LaRue. She is a beautiful being and a great resource for us all. And she will help you realize how powerful and beautiful you are. Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Kathy.
Bye bye, dear.